What's up, y'all? It's your boy, J. Calderon, Stand Clear Entertainment, and we're about to get into this week's boxing talk. Over the weekend, we had a great night of boxing. We're going to start off with the ShowTime boxing card, the triple header, with Jerrett Hurd defending his IBF junior middleweight title against former world champion and veteran Austin Trout. This fight was perhaps the best fight of the night. It was Austin Trout coming out, showing that boxing skills that he has, that veteran warrior spirit in him, that he put on a very good performance. Early on in the fight, I had him up about 5 rounds. He was just showing some very good boxing skills, moving on his feet, landing that jab at will, and also landing his shots from the southpaw stance. Austin Trout is a veteran. He's been in there with guys like Canelo Alvarez, which I thought he beat, and he was in there against Miguel Cotto, which he has a big victory over Miguel Cotto at Madison Square Garden, and he was back in New York City at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, and he put on a very good showing against this young lion in Jerrett Hurd, a younger, bigger, stronger man. At 154 pounds, this guy looked like a super middleweight in that ring. He was just basically walking down Austin Trout. In the second half of this fight, from the 6th round on, I started to see Jerrett Hurd take over this fight, landing more and more shots on Austin Trout. Trout looked like the gas tank just ran out. He looked like he was spent. He was leaning on the ropes, taking big shots, and Austin Trout was just on survival mode for the rest of the fight, and he just started to get battered and beaten down by Jerrett Hurd, who just put on a comeback performance just like he did in his previous fight against Tony Harrison, where he fell behind on the scorecards early, was getting outboxed, but then you saw him starting to come back in the second half of these fights and started to impose his size and his will on these opponents and just break them down until he was able to stop his man. Congratulations to Jerrett Hurd. My hat's off. He remains undefeated, 21-0, a very good young champion that wants to unify the division. I had an interview with him early on this year, and he says he wants to take on the winner of Charlo versus Erickson Lubin, and that was a fight that came on, and an excellent, spectacular knockout, highlight reel knockout, perhaps knockout of the year for Jermell Charlo, because this guy came in there and it looked like a Mike Tyson type of knockout in the first round, perhaps maybe a minute into the fight, but he knocked out Erickson Lubin with one shot. I mean, it was a very big, disappointing defeat because Lubin is from my second hometown of Orlando, Florida, and it was very disappointing to see him go out that way. A lot of people expected this to be the fight of the night, and it just ended so quickly. I mean, he was just blown away by that shot, stretched out, cold, twitching on the floor. I mean, it was a sad, sad sight. But this is a young man that was 22 years old. Perhaps this was a little bit too soon for him. He needed to have more better caliber fighters before stepping into the ring with such a seasoned, good fighter like the Charlo brothers, because these guys are phenomenal. I mean, I've grown to really like the Charlo brothers because they get better and better with each fight. They have definitely proven themselves as top fighters, pound for pound, in the world today, within the top 15. And what's next for Erickson Lubin? I would like to see him bounce right back because he is a young fighter. He still has great potential to become a world champion. I believe that fighting perhaps another victim of the Charlo brothers like Julian J. Rock Williams would be an excellent fight for this young man. Both guys are young. Both guys are very good, talented boxers / punchers, and I think that will be a tremendous fight between those two guys that are trying to climb back to the top of the division and become world champion. But I see that fight as a very good potential fight for Erickson Lubin. And also you have Tony Harrison out there that is trying to come back on the comeback trail as well. And that's a good matchup between those guys because both guys are skillful fighters and knockout punchers as well. And those are very good matches for Erickson Lubin. Now, as for Charlo, you know, he's a big guy at junior middleweight, but he still wants to campaign at the 154-pound limit, while his brother looks to take over the middleweight division of 160 pounds. But Jermell Charlo right here is looking to unify the titles. He really doesn't want to fight Erislandy, Lara, because they were stable mates. They're very good friends. And, you know, this is a business. These are the fights that you're going to have to take in order to become #1 in the division, because Erislandy Lara is #1 in that weight class. And Charlo is perhaps looking to fight the other champion, which is Jerrett Hurd, who holds an IBF junior middleweight title. That's an excellent fight. 2 undefeated champions, 2 very big guys for the division that are gonna put on a hell of a performance. And I see that Charlo is unstoppable in this division. I think he's absolutely the best at 154 pounds. He said that Miguel Cotto and Saddam Ali, which just got announced for the WBO title, is an absolute joke. And I have to agree, I like Saddam Ali. I have good friends in his camp. He's from Brooklyn, New York, but I think Saddam Ali is just way out of his league against a guy like Miguel Cotto. Very seasoned fighter, very good fighter, and I expect Miguel Cotto to be coming out victorious in his last performance. And you got to give Cotto credit because he's had an illustrious career, a future Hall of Fame career. Miguel Cotto is a first ballot Puerto Rican legend that has won titles in 4 different weight classes, the only male Puerto Rican to do so. And he deserves to go out in a soft touch, and I think that's the Saddam Ali fight is going to be a knockout performance for Miguel Cotto. And he's not going to fight any of these young lions right now because Jermell Charlo is just too much for any of these guys. I would love to see him fight Lara. I think that's the only real competition that he has in that division, but he's just too strong, too big, too powerful, and getting better and better with each fight to really top all these guys in this division. I also believe a guy like Demetrius Andre is another guy that would not have beaten any of the Charlo brothers, because what I've seen from these guys is just total improvement and total dominance the way these guys perform in the ring. So my hat's off to both of the Charlo brothers. Continue their reign in their division, and I wish them nothing but success. And what can you say? Houston is on the rise. We had the main event of the evening. Cuban WBA junior middleweight champion Erislandy Lara, the #1 154-pounder in the division, defend his title in a very, very boring performance. It was a dominant performance by Lara, outclassing his opponent, U.S. Olympian Terrell, who really didn't show us anything in this fight. He basically followed Lara around. Lara showed his slick boxing skills, landing at will with that left hand and just total control for 12 rounds. You can't really talk about this fight because it wasn't that exciting of a fight. He did what he had to do. I still haven't seen that worthy opponent for Erislandy Lara since he fought Canelo Alvarez. I mean, these guys that he has fought, the last 5 opponents, have not shown any real type of threat against a guy like Lara. Lara is a very good boxer, but he needs to fight guys like the Charlo brothers. He needs to fight guys like Jerrett Hurd, because these are the type of opponents that are going to really make him outstanding and really shine to see how good Erislandy Lara is, or he has to move up to the 160-pound division. He's been talking about Golovkin, but he hasn't done anything. He hasn't made the attempt to go up to middleweight division and take a challenge against guys like David Lemieux, Daniel Jacobs. These guys, he has to test himself and really show the type of caliber fighter he is before he steps into the ring with a Golovkin, because he's not going to get that opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez again, and he needs these big name opponents, these bigger challenges, and I think he should definitely move up to the 160-pound weight division and fight one of these big threats in order to make his statement as pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. But it was a great night of boxing overall. We switch over to the Fox Television Network. PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, had 2 excellent fights, with Abner defending his secondary 126-pound featherweight title against Andres Gutierrez. Andres Gutierrez is a very tough fighter. I knew that he would come to fight, very game, but he was just outclassed by the more skillful fighter. Morris is working in his second fight with new trainer Robert Garcia, and he's looking in tremendous shape. He's looking very good, very strong at featherweight. He boxed beautifully, used a lot of movement, used that head movement as well, using that jab, and just landing some big shots all night long in a dominant performance, and get his second victory under his belt. And now he's ready for the rematch against Leo Santa Cruz, who was the main event of the evening, and he also put on a hell of a fight against Chris Avalos. Avalos, like I said before, he was a promising prospect that didn't live up to the expectations. I've always liked Chris Avalos, but you know, he was in there against a guy that was just a machine, just throwing tremendous amount of punches, landing that right hand at will. Superb performance by Leo Santa Cruz that was able to just stop his man in this fight. Now the rematch is set for next year, perhaps in March or April, at the Staples Center. I believe is going to take place once again in Los Angeles. And I can't wait for this fight because it's going to be a very good fight. Can Abner Mares, with his new trainer, make the adjustments to really do better than he did in the first fight? Because we know that this is going to be a fight of the year candidate type of fight between these two guys. Very entertaining warriors, Mexican-American warriors that bring it when they step into the ring. Both are 3-division world champions. I can't wait. It's going to be a great, great fight in 2018. But that's my recap on all the fights that took place. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this YouTube channel right here, J. Calderon Boxing Talk. Please hit like, hit that subscribe button, share my videos. Also, make comments on the videos. Also, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter, and join the Facebook boxing group page, all under the same name, J. Calderon Boxing Talk. I'm J. Calderon, Stand Clear Entertainment. Thanks for your support. Keep watching, and please subscribe.